There's been various proposals to get a whole bunch of mineral sediment in here from either the river or from Lake Bourne. And if that could be done quickly, then cypress trees could get growing within 5 years or so. Otherwise, there's going to have to be organic deposition in some ways. A lot of it depends whether there can be river sediment or if it has to wait before organic matter builds up.
So in each of these blocks, we have four of these sample tubes. There's one that has one of each species by itself and then one in competition. And then the 3 test blocks were planted at different heights. So as you see out there, the first block is submerged. When we planted it, it had been really dry here, the water levels were really low. That had been at basically the surface of the water elevation, which was probably the lowest water elevation that we get out here. The second block, which is the middle block, was planted sort of at a mid-tidal range, and at that time it was 6 inches or 8 inches out of the water, and as you can see now it's right about at water level, which is good. And then the third block is at the high water line, and right now it's about 6 inches out of water. So who knows, we're just experimenting to see what kind of plants are going to be able to survive in the current conditions of the bayou until salinity levels can lower. And the ultimate hope and vision that the community has is that we can ultimately restore this into a cypress tupelo swamp. But it's going to take a while for the salt to get out of the water. It's going to take a while for the salt to get out of the soil. And so we're trying to see what we can do now to restore some of the environmental functions of the bayou and provide biodiversity, and as well as the conditions that will create better conditions for cypress tupelo, which means creating biomass, building up these landforms, and decreasing our water depth on the edges so we can create some areas for new planting.
The floating island concept, though rather expensive, might be able to sort of kickstart that process. If rafts can build up enough to allow cypress trees to grow, they may be able to get their roots down. Of course, this presupposes that the closing of the Mr. Go will actually lower salinity levels. That's a big unknown. That's something that the research here will help to see.
Karen, Robert, and I are going to get into this canoe, and what we're going to do is we're going to basically paddle the whole perimeter of this 427-acre Bayou Bienvenue wetland triangle. Basically, we're going to be measuring things like the surface water salinity, dissolved oxygen, pH. We're going to be doing some nutrient testing as well, but that's going to be in the following weeks. We're also going to measure some groundwater, the pore water salinity levels, which we understand is higher than the surface water salinity.
So all of this is going to help characterize the status of Bayou Bienvenue wetland triangle, to see where we are currently and to see what steps we need to take to get to whatever vision we come up with this summer for the restoration.
It's also to get some student data collection of the water characteristics to evaluate Army Corps surveying that's been done. There's been some perception that the Army Corps isn't always on the side of the community, so we're kind of doing some environmental justice, sort of citizen science to help out by just verifying what's found out here, which is pretty much high salinity levels, around 4 parts per thousand, which is kind of the highest range. Well, it's actually the range in which cypress die, which you can see out here.
All of the land underneath the wetlands is owned by different landowners, so there's a challenge with any kind of restoration project like this, just trying to make sure that you have the permission to the land. There aren't going to be snafus going on where landowners start opposing your project or trying to do their own thing on land that you're trying to protect. So we're looking into all those issues as it regards the wetland triangle.
There are 496, and I could be a little off on that number, lots that are out there in 140 blocks or squares. And there is a complete street grid, really extensions of the streets that are in the lower 9th Ward out into the open water. So with that many lots and a lot of owners, any restoration might possibly encounter the necessity of acquiring the rights for that redevelopment.
Well, we want to find the landowners because you know, there'll be, you know, once our project proceeds further, and once the Sewer and Water Board's project proceeds further, and if, you know, other groups take interest in the area and try to, you know, work restoration projects down there, you know, the people who own land in these areas might, you know, they might want to develop the land. They might simply just be worried that, you know, there are people on their land without permission. They might not even know, and, you know, that they even own the land. And, you know, if their land's going to be used, or, you know, in some way, or say have wastewater, you know, treated wastewater or sludge or something like that put over it, you know, they're entitled to know what's going on and to be compensated if their land is going to decrease in value.
The class project here is very much taking our lead from the community, from the nonprofits. We're trying to find out where our studies can help the project. So what we do is we attend various meetings. When we're down here, we visit at the Holy Cross Neighborhood Association meeting on Thursday afternoons. We meet with the different nonprofits, and that's our way of trying to see where our efforts can best plug in.
What we've been seeing for the past 3 years is a partnership between nonprofit organizations, environmental organizations, academic groups, government agencies, and residents, and basically everybody in between, from all over New Orleans, all over the country, and all over the world, coming together to work on this on the restoration of Bayou Bienvenue and the restoration and rebuilding of the lower 9th Ward. And all these different groups who haven't worked together very much in the past are bringing to the table is just a very diverse and holistic view of how restoration can happen.
What this is about is a group of people who are interested in Bayou Bienvenue, interested in restoring our ecosystem around the city and in the city. And it's really a kind of network is how we see it, or it's a partnership. It's a group of people who are going to be involved in this process. And we've found here at the Center for Bioenvironmental Research that oftentimes people are working in different areas or working on the same topic but with different techniques or different institutions, and that they would benefit by knowing what each other's doing. They would benefit by leveraging resources. So in some cases, somebody might have a grant to do something that could help somebody else that doesn't have any funding. So we thought this would be a great opportunity on behalf of the Bayou Bienvenue community to get people together, have an open opportunity for people to talk about their projects, people to meet each other, and then see where we might go collectively.
It's a net, and all the weaving of this net ends up one piece of thread when you take it loose, you know. So all this is just one. I mean, it's weaved in different direction, and it looks like it's a different thing, but if you take this piece of string and you weave it into a net, it looks like something different. But if you take the net loose, it's still one long strand of string. When you join the strand of string together, then you got unification.
One of the really special aspects of this 427 acres is its proximity, not only to the lower 9th Ward, but to downtown New Orleans, so that the closeness for people to see wetland or coastal restoration in progress will provide the impetus for doing larger coastal restoration projects along the Gulf Coast. The wetland here can serve as an environmental outdoor laboratory. It's a scale that is daunting sometimes, but relative to even the 28,000 acres of the Central Wetlands Unit, it is still relatively small, and I think very doable if there's a coalition of government agencies and nonprofits and community that want to have it happen, and then it can happen.